All right, now moving ahead here, talking about application properties. So by default, Spring Boot will load properties from a specific file called application.properties. So this is a magic file that Spring knows about, and it'll look for it in the source main resources directory, application to properties. Now, this application properties file is actually created by the Spring Initializr site when you actually create your project. Now, if you look at the file, it's actually empty at the beginning. There's nothing in it, but you can actually add some Spring Boot properties. So you could say server.port equals 8585. So effectively here now, you're kind of telling Spring Boot, hey, don't listen on port 8080. I want you to listen on port 8585 or whatever magic number here that you want to give to have the Spring Boot server listen on. Or you could also add your own custom properties to this file. So I could say coach.name equals Mickey Mouse, coach.team equals blah, 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 and so on. So you can give as many properties here as you'd like in this application.properties file. Now, how would you kind of read some data from that application properties, right? So we know it's under source main resources, and I put my own specific information in there, or my own custom properties here. So here I have coach.name, and I also have team.name. Then I can actually read this or use it in my REST controller by making use of injection. So here's my fun REST controller. And then I make use of that at value, and I give a $ curly brace, and then I give the actual property name here. So for that coach.name property, I can inject it by using coach.name and then injecting it or assigning it to this given field here. I have private string coach name. And then I could do a similar thing here for team name, right? So I have team names, the actual property. I do the at value injection of that property, and then assign it or bind it to this given field, private string team name. And you can repeat the process X number of times for any other properties that you have in your application.properties file. And I'll talk more about this properties file in some later videos. We'll go more in depth, but this is kind of enough to get us going. And then as far as static content, so by default, Spring Boot will load static resources from the /static directory. So some examples of static resources are like HTML files, cascading style sheets, JavaScript, images, PDFs, blah, 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 just static content. So you simply place it into the static directory, and Spring Boot will load it automatically for your given application. Now, one warning that you need to be aware of is that do not use the source main web app directory if your application is packaged as a jar. Okay, so although this is a standard Maven directory, it only works with WAR packaging. Okay, it's silently ignored by most build tools if you generate a jar file. And believe me, you'll waste many hours trying to resolve this or trying to get this to work. But don't worry, I'll actually show you how to make use of templates and Thymeleaf and so on. I'll show you how to do that in later videos, but just kind of a heads up, if you wanted to get started quickly, just be aware of that one issue. All right, now as far as templates, Spring Boot includes auto configuration for the following template engines. So FreeMarker, Thymeleaf, Mustache, and by default, Spring Boot will load templates from the /templates directory. And Thymeleaf is a popular template engine, and we'll actually use it later in the course. If you're interested in some of the other templates like FreeMarker or Mustache, just do an online search, and you'll find plenty of examples out there, and you'll find examples also that make use of Spring and Spring Boot if you like. All right, as far as unit test, you have this file here, mycoolapplicationtest.java. So this is actually created by the Spring Initializr. At the beginning, it's just a very basic test. I think there's just a setup item in there. There's no real code as far as running real unit tests. You can simply add your own custom unit test to this file, and it's part of the Spring Boot infrastructure. All right, so that was kind of a quick tour of the Spring Boot project structure. So we went through and we reviewed every one of the files that are created by Spring Initializr. So you should have a good idea as far as those files. And in later videos, we'll kind of dive in a bit deeper and see how these different files work out. All right, so I'll see ya in the next video.